is this dude right here who we call Enoch, right? Now, Enoch, you may also know, becomes Metatron, right? He becomes like the number 2 guy up in heaven. After all these years, he becomes Dose, right? So his name, Enoch, which is, an ancient like Hebrew name, literally means dedicated. That tells you all about it. This cat is dedicated to what he's doing. Your name says dedication, right? And this comes from he comes all the way back from ancient Hebrew, Abrahamic traditions. This is the antediluvian period. So this is before the flood. He has many titles, and his titles are good. His titles are even better than his airness, right? He's better than his airness, which is like, what I'm saying? It's better than Mamba. Let's listen to his titles, right? 7th from Adam, Walker with God. That's powerful. The Taken One, and later he is Metatron, the Heavenly Scribe. He's one of the most mysterious figures in all religious history. Like, there's whole books dedicated to Enoch's writing and Enoch's life because he was so down. He understood everything so well that God was like, why don't you just come down? Why don't you just work down here? You know the product better than anybody else. Why don't you just come on and work down? So he didn't die. Enoch didn't have to die. I don't know what the death process would have been when he was looking at, but he didn't have to do that. God was basically like, you don't even have to die. Just come on, man. Let's just go right now. And so he went and ascended up to heaven. And then he has access to everything. And I mean, when I say everything, we're talking about divine knowledge, about ascension, about cosmic order, about all the hidden truths. So he is the speaker. His divinity was not earned through warfare. It was not granted through legacy. It was not unlocked. He is the archetype of the ascended mind because of the brain. So in the Book of Enoch, he's powerful too, right? Because he's part of the early lineage of Adam, so among the first men. When he's described as the one who walked with God, like there's actually scriptures where he is talking back and forth to God. And then the big line was, and he was not, for God took him. He was not, for God took him. So he didn't exist anymore because God took him. That's why. God got him. God got involved. God is gangster. Like, God put a personal stamp on this man's life and was like, you know what, Enoch? I really been looking for somebody here to run the point, right? When I go to the bench, God's like, I need some time. I need somebody who understands the offense well enough to run everything and keep it all going. And that's Enoch. He doesn't have an ego. He doesn't want to be better than the number 2 spot on the team, right? Jordan had Scottie Pippen. This is what he is. This is God's Pippen. This is God's Pip, right? The 1-2 combo where you're going to back me up. You're going to defend the guy's toughest perimeter player every night. And then when I go to the bench, you're going to make sure that offense flows. That's what his role was. So we give him that. So unlike Ganyu, his story doesn't grow through public worship. His stuff is all hidden text. Like, you have to be looking for Enoch, right? There's plenty of books out there, all the apocryphal literature that's out there, but it's never about him. It's about all the things that were going around him and what he understood. Like, it's him telling all of us, like, this is what's going on up here, right? So I have a couple of books on Enoch. And I'm telling you, Enoch literature, the Enoch mythology, it's deep. Because what we start to get from him is that, he understands how the cosmos works. He understands, like, he looked behind the curtain. He's like, that's a P6 engine you got going, that thing, right? Where did Enoch live? I'm going to assume now Enoch comes, all right, obviously this is ancient to the Abrahamic belief system. So this is going to be in the Middle East. This is going to be the area where this actually survived. This is the oldest of Abrahamic belief systems. So I'm not sure if they ever mentioned what city he lives in. I don't know if he's attached to a city, but I'm going to assume it's during that Middle Eastern region of the world that was the foundation for that culture, like where they existed. So I'm not sure where he lived. Maybe I've seen it, but it may have never stood out to me. But we know what he is. Like, he doesn't just visit heaven. He becomes a part of the structure. He ascends as Metatron. He's associated with divine knowledge, understanding of the universe, right? He's associated with sacred geometry. So his power isn't physical. It's informational. I was kind of seeing him as like Thoth, right? That's how I always kind of looked at him. In fact, I kind of compare him in intelligence to Thoth in another triad because it's that sacred knowledge. Metatron. What was that movie, man? There's a movie where Kevin Smith's movie, man. Oh, Dogma. Yeah, Dogma. I want to pull it up because we do see him in a movie, right? Like this might be like a good 20 years ago. Metatron. Let me see if I can find it here. Because it's an interesting, like, he comes out and he kind of explains his role that, you can't just, this is a great actor too, the guy who does this. Let me pull this image up here. Come on, okay. Okay, we're gonna, okay. Let's see if it'll show up here. Oh, I hate you guys. I really, really do. We just want to talk about the movie and stuff like that. Can I get an image that works for us here? Because this was important. Like, if you saw this film, is this Alan Rickman? This may be Rickman here, right? Let me see. I may never be able to get this. Okay, there it is. So this is Alan Rickman. This guy, and this is the Kevin Smith flick, Dogma. And this is what Metatron was used for. He was the guy who would go around and, spread the message. You couldn't talk to God. Let me see if I can find it. I'm just going to go and just do a quick search. Where was it? Oh, I'm sorry, guys. Give me 1 second. Where did Enoch live? Like, what geographic area was he bound to? Do we know that? Is it written of? And this is important because this guy comes back and it's like you can't hear the word of God because your head would explode. Like, we remember that part if you watch Dogma. And I don't know how accurate, Dogma is to Christian literature, or should I say Catholic literature, but he is talked about. So he comes down and he puts her on her mission. You're right. He's from Babylon. Let's see. Book of Genesis. I mean, he was Adam's lineage, his 7th generation from Adam. So, yeah, I would guess you're right. Like, what I get is ancient, Near East, Mesopotamia. So that sounds all right. Like, that's per that period of time. So I think we're both kind of hitting on the same thing, right? But the Book of Enoch has all, like, if you want to go into the Enoch literature, this is where you're going to learn everything about, like, the fallen angels. Like, he's the one who mainly documented that stuff, right? So we do know this guy in that regard. He's kind of minimal in, like, mainstream religious texts, but when all the apocryphal writing, all the mysticism, all the esoteric traditions, he's heavily influenced upon angel, like the angelology, like the understanding of angels, all goes from him because he's at the top of the choir of angels now. Imagine that, man. This is the ultimate. I went from ashy to classy, right? I was down here as a regular guy, sure, I was smart, but now you're at the top of the choir of angels. And if you go into, like, the Kabbalistic teachings, reading the Kabbalah, you're going to hear a lot of his teaching there. You're going to hear him, like I said, in discussions of the fallen angels, as well as, like, anything pre-flood and any, like, hidden history. So he's not widely worshipped, but he is deeply, deeply studied. And I have books, about Enoch. So when you're messing with Enoch, you're really on a quest to try to get some knowledge up in you. That's really what's going on, right? Is that you want to get knowledge, and that's what he represents. So in reality, like, the idea that reality has a structure, similar to what Thoth says, right? That reality has a structure and that possible for humans to become more than what they are today. So his presence, like I said, is not like, most people aren't talking about Enoch. You won't really see him. Like, Kevin Smith putting him in a movie was the most profound thing that I've ever seen. I'm just going to look it up and see if there's anything else. Obviously Kevin Smith put him in a movie. Is there any other more recent kind of representations of Enoch? Because I'm kind of guessing that there's not. He just ain't the most popular guy. It's what he is. He had a pretty serious role in what he did. So I'm gonna guess that there's not. Let's see. Yeah, he's not really. There's not like much like direct references to him in the film Noah, right? In the Russell Crowe movie Noah. That's the closest. He's in a mainstream character, but his lore is kind of baked into it. You're not seeing Enoch, but you're seeing his world. So he is not heavily mentioned, even in the modern stuff. I think that Kevin Smith joint was the only opportunity that we've seen someone playing him. Although there's all these, misdirections. If people are talking about ancient aliens and watchers, They're frequently talking about Enoch. He was a guy who knew too much. So there's a lot that goes on there when we're talking about like the apocryphal literature and that talk about like fallen angels and all that stuff. That's where you're going to get the bulk of like your Enoch stuff. But like I said, man, if you want to study the fallen angels, you're reading all of his work. Like that is what he was. So Ganyu was lifted up by the people. Enoch, he was something different. He elevated. He took that job, man. They tell you to dress for the part you want, dress for the job you want. He did it. He was like, I'm going to be godly and saintly because I'm applying for this job. And God was like, come down here and run the second unit for me in heaven. That's a big role, and he does it without any fail. Like Enoch has never let us down, right? So we had to give him his shine, give him his love, and just to talk about his story. But there's so much literature on Enoch that we could go endlessly talking about Enoch, and probably we will. Like I have the books, and it's a lot, man. It is really a lot. You got to really dedicate some time to the study here, okay? But it's all good. It's absolutely a great thing that we can talk about him now. Now I got to get